CEO Wisdom Pod AI Edition with Luca Zambello here. He's the CEO of Journey, a cool app that will fully automate your guest experience and entire operations. Excited to talk about that. I'm quite bullish on these platforms. I even started my own Airbnb agency at some point, and we were using platforms such as Guestly to actually manage listings across the place. And I've checked Luca's app. It's quite amazing. It's GPT powered and generates listing descriptions. For example, there's even a chat bot. So it's really cool. Luca, can you tell us a bit more about yourself, your background, and journey?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, was originally born and raised in Italy. I moved in LA to US with the excuse of studying about like 14 years ago. And a couple of years after I moved here, I wanted to figure things out. Really want to be an entrepreneur here in US. And I started in that space super early on. It was like very Airbnb wasn't really yet a thing, and things were start happening online. But most stuff, especially for the luxury rentals, were done through brokers. I end up launching a landing page about luxury villas, and be one of the first one doing Google Ads on that space. We did $1.2 million in revenue on year one, so it was like, oh wow, the American dream is real. But it was a short-lived business because everybody got smarter. Property owners start listing properties directly online. VRB on Booking.com and Airbnb all start taking pieces out of that space, and then we had a lot more companies with the same concept. But from there, I spun it off and pivoted the business into a management company. Grew the management company quite a bit, and I was super frustrated while I was doing that, because I wanted to really automate as many processes as possible. If you want to create a scalable business, you need to have automations and processes that can streamline that business. And I was trying to do that through software, but what I encountered is an extremely fragmented space. For anybody that has been in the hospitality industry, they know it. There's so many solutions out there, so many people doing so many different things, and these solutions don't work well with one another. And with the coming of AI, which we looked at way earlier than everybody, especially in our space, we realized that the current ecosystem couldn't work. So we wanted to create a platform that unified the best in class under a single platform, and make it feel and look and work like one system versus multiple systems, right? And so the ability to manage everything in a single dashboard, anything from IoT devices, so like smart locks, smart thermostats, to dynamic pricing, to AI messaging with guests, your all the Airbnb settings that you would normally find on Airbnb, but now just ability to do it from your own platform versus having to log in on Airbnb all the time, ability to manage multiple different listings, and also multiple different channels, like if you want to connect to Booking.com, Expedia, and stuff like that. So that was like really the ultimate vision of Journey, and we accomplished already a lot, and we have already a lot of users, but what's about to come is it's even more powerful. So we're very excited, but that's what we're doing.
I'm excited for you too. And the bottom line being that, yeah, you replace tons of tools into one. So that translates into time and energy saving. Also, your pricing is not super high. It's really affordable. I mean, the packages, first you have a free version to try it out. Then it starts at $29 per unit, right? So per property, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's the second package. It can go pretty expensive per units as well. Like we have all the way up, but because we understand the needs of people it's different. The most important thing is that when somebody's familiar with, you don't want to have to change your property management software 5-6 times, which is what most PMS most property manager end up doing. And even for somebody that manages 2 units or 1 unit has very different needs than somebody who manages like 100, right? And so, but you don't want to have to change system every single time. You just want to have a system that evolves with you. And so I think that's the bottom of it. Like the trick here, and what somebody what people didn't think about it. And I think you mentioned a really good point is about simplifying things. If you look in any space, in any industry, whenever somebody came and simplified things, that's when it went mainstream, right? It happens with computers, with processing, with operating systems, right? Like before, DOS was extremely hard to use, but that was your first interface. But then when you start having like Windows, and Mac and iOS with on Apple, it changed completely the user interactions with those devices, and now you end up having everybody having a computer on their pocket with smartphones, right? So
Right. And I think that with, for example, the cost of switching these platforms is not huge from a setup perspective, but in Airbnb, if you get an overlap, okay, if someone books on your system at another place and they book at Airbnb at the same time, and or any other platforms, if you cancel, there's a huge cost to that, a huge algorithmic cost, and Airbnb might even boot you out. So it's really important not to mess up on that level, which I guess you've taken a somewhat of an anti-fragile platform right there. I interviewed not so long ago on the pod an email marketing SaaS guy that got acquired by Sendinblue, which are now called Brevo. And the cost of switching your whole email marketing is just huge. So I really love the business here because people are kind of like, oh, I'm using Journey now and I won't switch. So your churn must be pretty low. So I really love the business. How much customers do you have right now?
right now we have about 1,000 customers.
And let's say that 20% are paid.
A little bit more because we just launched the free system,
Okay.
so close to 40% paid.
Okay. And let's say that in average, each customers have around 5 properties, right?
Yeah, that's about the right math. Correct.
So yeah, that's a fairly sized business right there. Fair to say that it's at least 200K MRR right now.
Yeah, we're almost at we have $2.2 million in contracted ARR.
Very good. Okay, so first question I have to you, which kind of relates, yeah, with that business and the first one that you launched and you achieved the American dream, right? What's special about you? Like what makes you the way that you're built today to be able to be that successful in any businesses that you start?
Well, I think it's easy to see from the outside just the positive. Like I think that's what everybody sees. Everybody has failures. Everybody has the. Well, I think the number one failure is when you give up. That's I say that I don't give up. So technically speaking, I don't have failures, but you have to fail within what you're doing many times, but improve from it, right? Every time you improve from whatever you were doing before, I think it's not a failure and it's a success. But a lot of people don't see what's happening between and this stuff. You have to learn a lot of lessons, and so I think being humble while at the same time being strong, it's a fine line, right? Because you have to be very confident when you speak about your business. You have to be very confident when you speak about yourself, but at the same time you have to be extremely humble, knowing that you have to learn all along the whole way. You have to learn from your employees. You have to learn to listen. You have to learn to listen to other people that have been more successful than you, and maybe people that have been less successful than you, but more successful at a specific thing, right? So, and I think that's probably the second piece that I've always asked. Like, I think this is like, and it's interesting as well because especially coming from Italy, it's not in our culture whatsoever to ask. And when
In
I
general, humbleness, right? Like in Italy,
yeah
it's like flashy Ferraris and Gucci and
exactly, and but instead like you have to understand that like you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to for success, obviously in a
ethical way.
ethical way, exactly, but you have to be like okay to pick up the phone and just make a phone call and say, hey, how did you do it? I still do that, by the way. I still talk to whenever I'm doing something with a business that I've never done before. I try to find the most successful people at that and then reach out to it. For example, we were chatting a little bit offline. We're doing So we raised good money with venture capitalists. I didn't know how to do it. I moved here, didn't know anything about it. I talked to all people that were successful doing that. Now we're doing a community round of crowdfunding. So we're allowing like our users to invest within the product. And I knew nothing about it. So I picked up the phone and talked to people. And I actually end up being able now because of the network that I built. But remember, I moved here and I didn't know anyone. But now with the network that I built, I can talk to the most successful people at crowdfunding. I talked to some of the people at Miso Robotics, which raised over $100 million on crowdfunding, right? And the reason why, and the reason why I can do that, number one, because I build a network, but I build a network by asking people, by calling people, and say, hey, would you be down to help me? Hey, I have some questions, and you'll be shocked how many people actually are there willing to help you. Because the entrepreneurs have been through whatever you're going through, right? They all have been completely struggling, bootstrapped, having to hustle all the way up to wherever they are. So they have a lot of empathy for other people that are trying to do the same thing. And they will never judge you for it, and they will be willing to help. I'm the first one I'm willing to help because I've been helped by so many people. So asking, it's a big one.
Amen to that. You've seen this head nod a lot. That means that Charles approves. I mean, that's what we're doing right now. We're connecting. We're getting to learn about one another, and yeah, hopefully we can do some business, some win-win stuff in the future. So that's the model right here, guys. I'm also curious on the grit side, because you did mention on the learning side of things, which is quite important. You gave us a good recipe for that. Lots of insights in less than 30 seconds. Thank you for that. But the grit side, where do you learn that? Is it just by eating many punches as quick as possible and giving yourself some recovery time? Because I found that especially younger folks of younger generations and millennials, they're very low on grit. You know, they pretty much had everything, and even my generation, you know, it's like the little king generation, that you gave him everything and you never really had adversity. Me, arguably enough, I do think my parents did a good job with me, but they never really taught me adversity. You know, like I had to find that out by myself, and maybe a little bit in sports. But how do you teach grit to someone?
Yeah, I think you said it right though. It's like I think this number one's parents' job, and I think I was lucky, very lucky, because at the time I didn't fully understand. But my dad told me I grew up in a, I would say, especially for Italy, like decently wealthy family. But my dad told me, just so you know, I'm gonna leave the second you're done studying. You have to take care of yourself. You're not going to see a penny from me, and you're not going to see a penny from me even when I pass out, because I'm going to give everything away to charity. When I was 30 years old, he told me that he was not serious about it. But until I was 30, that's what what in my head was the truth. And, you know, I was like, you know what? I got to take care of myself. I got to make success for myself. I want to live a good life. And if I want to do that, I need to be successful in whatever I'm doing, because I don't have that safety net. But I need to be forever grateful to my parents that they said that to me. And the time was hurtful. I didn't fully understand it, but that's the biggest gift that they left me. Learning after is harder, but but you have to learn disciplines. I think at the end of the day, it's about disciplines. Like you mentioned sports. I think sports are a great way to learn disciplines, because you're not going to be successful for any sports unless you have discipline, unless you have crazy talent. But you have, but it's about this disciplines, and disciplines are going to make you more resilient. It's going to make you understand that it's a process, and don't take this heat as like it's okay to suffer. You know, if you do any sports, you embrace suffering. Right? If you're a professional sport, you embrace suffering. You understand that to become successful, you have to work out harder than everybody. You have to put in more hours than everybody, and you have to not complain and just stand up as quickly as possible. I don't care whatever sport you do, but you have to have that discipline. And
Right.
business is very much the same.
Yeah, feel the pain, and decide what you convert that pain into. You know, if it's like, oh, poor me suffering, and Like when sometimes I go for a run and then my body's is really like, oh, poor you, your little stomach is hurting, and then it's like, oh, you need to stop, right? But that's self-pity right there. The greater self, it knows that everything passes. Pain is temporary. The body, it knows how to heal itself. Guess what? The mind too. Like if you're not feeling well today, instead of taking a sick day and abandoning everything, why don't you give it a couple of hours and see how you feel? That life is in waves, energy is in waves, it comes and it goes. So I
Yeah.
think learning that through exposure, plus having the knowledge of folks like us telling you like how things could possibly be in an alternative life. Because me, my parents, and all the kids, we were taught that, oh, little buddy feels sick here, take a sick days, watch the TV the whole day, until you get better. I mean, that's not my recipe to this day. When I'm sick, I just go on. I still do sports. I go and breathe
Hmm.
some fresh air. And there's a scale to it. I know how to scale that body, scale that mind, so that we keep on improving on a daily basis. And arguably, you've done that as a founder. You look of Journey. You've also picked the right niche. You've been at it since almost 5 years now with Journey. What do you seek to accomplish in the next couple of years?
You have to think big. Um, that's another thing I learned. Um, you have to always push yourself to think bigger, because if you don't think big, you're not going to do big things. My goal is, I understand that AI is going to be one of the biggest changes that we're going to see in history. It's going to be bigger than the dot-com and crypto and any other bubble that we have seen. And I think we're going to see like massive, massive, massive bubble. But out of this bubble, forget about the financial side. There's going to be massive changes that are going to happen, and real disruptors that are going to come out. And I think ultimately, yeah, you have this language models, you have like, OpenAI, you have Google, and you have Facebook, but that's just a handful of people that are going to be working on those type of technologies. The biggest disruptions of where most companies are going to come is going to be companies that take these language models and narrow them down and teach them a specific skill on a specific industry. So there's going to be multiple leaders for each industry. There's going to be one for let's say for diagnosing patients. There's going to be one for law. There's going to be multiple different ones. We want to be the one for hospitality. Of course, we started in the short-term rental space, but our ultimate goal is we understand that there's almost $1 trillion in efficiencies when it comes and operational costs, outdated operational costs, spent every year in the hospitality industry. That's a massive number, right? And we understand that the reason why this inefficiency have happened is because of some old school massive companies that have been there for a long time, and from one side. On the other side, on the side of the innovations, because of the fragmentation. We're fixing the fragmentations by bringing the power of AI. So what we're really doing is we're making AI accessible to that industry, while it's specialized for that industry, and making it easy to use. So my ultimate goal is to become the go-to solutions in the way that every single hotel or Airbnb or any type of lodging business is ever going to be run, um, moving forward. So it's a lot to go, but I think we have an opportunity. We have definitely a shot at it, and I think there's not many people looking at that.
And who could acquire you? Because Airbnb, I mean, you're publishing on various other platforms. I know that it's not something you think about, but you've probably thought a couple seconds about it. Who would be a potential acquirer of your platform?
In the short term, is going to be some large hospitality companies that they see that they're that the
Like a
AI.
Hilton?
Yeah, potentially, exactly. A core, some of these large hospitality companies, but because they can see that they don't have, because it's a mindset. It's not about resources. It's a mindset and finding the right people and just be first at doing it. And there's not a lot of people who know how. Like if you narrow it down of how many people are familiar with AI, understand AI, understand the fragmentation of technologies, and now understand hospitality, all three at the same time. I can narrow those people down to probably maximum 10 people on Earth. Because there's not a lot of people thinking about all those three combined. And so when you have those unique skill set, which our team has, now makes you very valuable. And when people understand that this technology is evolving way quicker than they thought. So let's remember, AI doubles in power. This is a study that was done by a large university, Stanford University. And already like 10 years ago, they predicted where the AI power is going to be more or less today. And they were super precise about it. And they're saying AI doubles in power every 3.5 months. That's a compound rate that we have never seen before. It's an exponential evolution. That means that, and to put things in perspective, if AI right now is equal of a 90 IQ of a human beings, if you double that, 90 is not that impressive, but you go 180, you now pass Albert Einstein. That's doubling, right? You double that again, you're almost 3 times smarter than the smartest person that has ever existed on Earth. So we're at a cusp of that. And I think a lot of people are underestimating AI because human brain is now meant to understand exponential numbers and exponential evolution. So it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen. And I think some of these companies are going to realize, hey, we didn't look into this. We should have. We need to acquire a company that really knows what's up, but they're going to have to pay a good price for it.
But I would see a Remax better suited to acquire you, for example, because I told you when we started this pod that I wanted to start my Airbnb agency. It was actually called Airbnb Boost. Almost got that one off the ground. And yeah, the model would be that I would sit in this chair here in Mexico and I would manage properties from a distance, believe it or not, like homeowners, and I mean, you probably believe it, you're directly in the industry, but they're so much lazy that they don't even want to learn about technology and platforms, especially real estate folks. They're used to brick and mortar, and technology is kind of scary for them. So they hire an agency like mine to just manage that all by myself. They don't even care the details, where they're listed and so forth. I have someone, how do you call these folks, like a real estate manager, property manager, that's there on the spot. It's me and them basically, and they just cash in, What do you think about that model? And do you think that Remax could be a better acquirer than like Hilton, which is a hotel?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's a whole set of acquirers. It could be even large real estate owners. It could be multiple. Like it's and there's also the IPO strategy, right? Like especially we saw in the .com how many companies went IPO. So there's definitely that, and you don't have to have massive revenues when there's like a hype like the ones that there's going to be for AI to raise large amount of capital on an IPO. But I think that everybody is going to be forced to evolve this time. It's not like going to be like, oh yeah, I'm lazy, I'm not going to evolve. Yeah, sure, but then the person next to you is going to be able to offer the same thing you're offering for 30% less of the money that you're offering and make more money than you're making. It's going to put you out of business. It's just this is not something that people are going to be able to ignore. If you account that operational inefficiency, customer support, front desk, they account for sometimes 40% or sometimes even more, sometimes even 60% of their total cost. If you can somehow streamline that and operate at a 40% less cost than everybody else, you're putting other people out of business, or you're making an insane amount of money and you can scale 10 times quicker than everybody else.
Right. Last question. You're quite good at PR. You've been featured on Bloomberg, Forbes, and other places. How do you do that?
I don't know.
I have a good PR agency.
No, I think it's just we're touching upon really good topics that people are interested in. I think the story, it's interesting. My personal story, I think in the end of the day, America is about looking up to the person that comes here and doesn't know anybody and then builds something. I don't see myself that way. I don't see myself having achieved even close to what I want to achieve. So I'm not patting myself on the back whatsoever. But I think that's what some media outlets are interesting in talking about. And it's kind of like this. It's like a snowball effect. Once you're out in the media, then they need a source for something, they're going to reach out to you. So it's kind of like doing the first initial step. Right now, we've been recognized as a source of information and as experts in AI and hospitality, which is a decent niche. The hospitality is massive, but there's not a lot of people doing that combination. So once you get recognized as that, the media come to you, which is very interesting.
All right. Well, thank you, Luca. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
I mean, obviously our website, jurny.com, and then I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. They can reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we probably by the time this is going live, we're going to be live on WeFounder. Right now we're private mode, so we're raising a community around there. Minimum check size is only going to be $250, so anybody really can invest and own a piece of our company.
Love it.